Good morning, everybody. As we go to the chitas of today, we're holding in the Parsha Shoftim. We're holding in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 19, verse number 14. You should not push back your neighbor's landmark, which is the predecessors have erected, in your borders, which you'll inherit in your land, which God is giving to you as an inheritance. Now she says that Lashon Nasig Ocher, the Sasig is the same sense as to turn back, meaning he moves the mark dividing the land backwards. Means basically taking somebody encroaching on somebody else's land into his neighbor's field in order to expand his own field, but does not already say you must not rob. That's stealing. So why didn't have a special rule for this? So why does it tell you to further say you must not push back your neighbor's landmark? That's stealing. It teaches us that one who removes his neighbor's boundary violates two positive commandments. So that's basically, you violate stealing, and you violate which the Torah commanded to divide the land according to the families and according to the tribes. So not only are you doing something by robbing, you're basically going against the whole concept which God said how to divide the land of Eretz Yisrael. Teaches us, that's the one. I might think that applies also to outside the land of Israel. Therefore, Torah says in your inheritance that I will inherit. But the land of Israel, in Eretz Yisrael, you do two avedas. If you do this in America, then you do one sin, and that is Leisigna. You're not allowed to steal. Verse number 15. One witness may not rise up against anybody in any kind of a sin. One witness is not accepted. Something's established, especially a sin, is established if there's two witnesses. Now she says, Eid Echad Zebon Av. The verse establishes a binyan av, a principle. Any instance where it says Eid in the Torah, it means two. That's why over here it says Eid Echad. So this is a binyan av, one of the ways we learn the Torah. And the binyan av, this way you establish a principle, a concept that whenever it says Eid in the Torah, it means two witnesses. When it says Eid Echad, it means one instance, one witness. L'chol oven, l'chol chates, that is, his fellow will be punished through his testimony, either physical or monetary punishment. However, one witness can rise to obligate somebody an oath. If one says to another, give me a money that I lent you, and he replies, I owe you nothing, and one witness testifies that he owes him, he's obligated to make a vow. You cannot force anybody to payment on the statement of one witness. You need two witnesses. Al pi shnayim eidim, on the mouth of two witnesses, and not that they write their testimony. The Torah says al pi, on the mouth, in a letter, or send it into court, or may there be interpreted, nor may there be an interpreter. You're not allowed to have an interpreter. That's why the best needs to know all languages. They had to hear it from the mouth of the witness. Verse 16, Yakum Eid Chamas Beish, La'ana is Beisara. If a corrupt witness rise up against a person to bear untenable testimony against him. Again, we're talking about two witnesses, Eid Chamas. Something cannot exist because these witnesses are removed from being able to testify regarding this event at all. Other witnesses say to them, were you not with us? This is what's the classical case of an Eid Zoymim, where witnesses don't say it didn't happen. They testify that he wasn't there. That's an Eid Zoymim. So a person is an Eid Zoymim, you were not with us in such a day. You were with us in such a day. You said that something happened in Boca on May 14th. May 14th, we were together in Israel. Dusham Noshim. And two men testifying about these people stand up, they'll stand before God, before the priest, and the judges, that will be in those days. Now she says, two men must stand. The Torah is referring to two witnesses and teaches us that number one, women should not be witnesses. We don't want to bring women to court, and women should not be witnesses because, as we know, in the Gemara, we rip apart the witnesses, and we try to make sure that they're saying the truth, and we do many things, embarrassing things to the witnesses, and therefore the Torah says there shouldn't be. Number two is we learn from here that witnesses need to stand for Amdu. Witnesses need to stand. Ashiyim Lediv. These are the litigants, they have to stand. Hashem, they must consider themselves as they're standing before God. As it says, in the midst of judges does he judge. So when you come to court, you're coming to Beis Din, you're not only standing in front of these rabbis, you're standing in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Darshu, Ashiftach, Ashir B'yam Mehem, there will be in those days, Yiftach B'deirei, Kishmo B'deirei. Yiftach, when Yiftach was a judge, he is like Shmuel Navi when he was a judge. So Lilin Ben Kovid, you cannot say that this only show honor to the rabbis of the previous generation. I won't show honor to the rabbis of the present generation. Can't say that. The rabbi, the present generation, whoever the rabbi is, whoever the judge is, you have to show him honor. And the judges must investigate the matter thoroughly. These witnesses did false testimony. They testified falsely. Why? Because they weren't there. How are they going to investigate thoroughly through the testimony of those who accuse them? They'll make sure these accusing witnesses that says they were in a different place, they're going to make sure they're saying the truth. Those who accuse them are conspiring to testify falsely. They'll investigate, interrogate, and you can learn the Gemara how they investigated and interrogated a witness. Even Rabbi Akiva said that if he was sitting in the Beis Din, there wouldn't be one witness. There would be no testimony because he would make sure that every witness was totally would fall apart, and accuse them of conspiring using usual means of investigation, interrogation. The witnesses are false witnesses. Whenever scripture says aid, it's not talking about one witness, it's talking about two witnesses. Now we have a special law in the Torah, it's a unique law, a Torah law, Eidim Zaimimim, which is a unique law. Vasisim Loikasha Zomam, whole Gemara, Masechta Makis, you can learn this all. Salamakis, Sanhedrin, it's all beautiful Gemara there. Vasisim Loikasha Zomam, Lasis Lachiv. You shall do to the witnesses what they wanted to do to the person. So these are not false witnesses that arguing one against the other. This is when two witnesses come and say that the first two witnesses could not have been there. We're not arguing with the case. Case could have happened. Reuven could have killed Shimon. But these two witnesses could not be the witness because they were not there. That's Eidim Zaimimim. And the Torah says you should do to the witnesses what they wanted to do to the person. And that means you kill these two witnesses or they have to pay. If it's a money issue, they have to pay. But whatever they wanted to do to their brother through their testimony, you do to them. This is a interesting Torah law. Unique Torah law. So Rashi says you learn the Gemara there, Kasher Zamam, what they derived, they wanted to do, what they planned to do. Like Kasher Asa, not what they did. That means if God forbid we killed the person on the testimony of these two witnesses, and then we make them false witnesses, it's a different law. This is a specific kind of law. Last is lachet, what they wanted to do to their brother. Why does the Torah say to their brother? This teaches us on those who conspire to incriminate a married daughter of a priest. So they come, it's all beautiful Gemara. If they come and they say that a priest's daughter did an adulterous act. If you remember the law, that the Torah says that an adulterous daughter of a priest has a different law than a regular Jewish adulteress, and that is that they're killed by hot lead, by fire. So what do you do? So this situation, they came and they did something. They said that this girl of a kohen, Kehenis, this girl had an adulterous relationship. She got betrothed, and she had an adulterous relationship. So over here, the Torah says you don't do exactly what they wanted to do. So this is all learned from this pasuk. It's interesting how the Gemara learns it from this pasuk, because it's like not seemingly the pasuk says that, but it teaches those who conspire to incriminate a married daughter of the priest, the son and sin of adultery, are not to be put to death by burning as they intended to be done to her. But by need of death, that it would give it to a alleged parm, or with one who had a relation, which is triangulation. And it says, he besreifa, she must be burned, but not everybody else. But not the one who the adulterer. This therefore says la'achiv, implying that they are plotted to do against their brother, but not against their sister. However, regarding all applications of death penalty, the Torah equates a woman to a man. In general, there's no difference between a woman and a man, only concerning a bas kohenes. It's a gzeres hakasser. It's a decree in the Torah. It's a pasuk. You can't argue with a pasuk. Therefore, it creates a woman and a man, so that there's a conspire to incriminate a woman are executed just like they conspire to incriminate a man. If they falsely testify that she killed somebody, or she profaned the Shabbos, or they're giving the same death penalty as they're given to her. For the exclusion here is the sister implies only where it is possible to fulfill the penalty for conspiring to execution them with the means of the death due to the person who's being put to death. So the other person who had a relationship with her. So in the Torah law, we know again that when there's a special law of bas kohenes, the Torah says a bas kohenes has a special law that if she had a relationship. Torah law, if a person has a relationship with a married woman, both are put to death, man and the woman. So generally, they're both to the death the same way. But when it comes to a bas kohenes, daughter of a kohen, she is put to death in a different way, even from the person who had an adulterous affair with her. So therefore, the Gemara learned that from here we learned that if the Eidim Zayim, they're witnesses that were caught to be lying, that they weren't there, then they are not put to death in that kind of a way. Verse 10, and the rest of us will listen and fear. And it will not be again in the Jewish nation such kind of sins. And Rashi says, Yishmu v'yirof, and here we know that when somebody is put to death in Jewish law, you have to announce it. It has to be a proclamation that Yankel or Shmerel or Rachel is being put to death, and they're being put to death because of this situation. So Eidim Zayman, again, I don't know if it ever happened in history, but if Eidim Zayman were put to death, then it was told publicly why they are being put to death. Lo yisachas einecha, and you should not have pity on such a person. Nefesh ben nefesh, a soul for a soul, ayin b'ayin, an eye for an eye, shen b'shen, a tooth for a tooth, yad b'yad, a hand for a hand, regel b'regel, a foot for a foot. Rashi says, ayin, Rashi says, the Gemara says, it does not mean an eye for an eye. It means money for the eye. So it's not an eye for an eye. That's the Gemara in Baba Kana. Chapter 20, verse number 1. If you're going to go out to war against your enemy, and you're going to see, wow, they're coming with many horses and chariots. Wow, they have a gigantic army. How are we going to win this war? Do not be afraid of them. Hashem Elokecha Imach, because God, your God, is with you. Hamalcha Meretz Mitzrayim, who took you out of the land of Egypt. Now she says, the places, the passages about going out to war, next to the passage teach us that anyone lacking a limb does not go out to war. Shem b'shen, ayin b'ayin. So when you have, Torah puts the Gemara says, why does the Torah put these two laws together? Because if God forbid somebody is handicapped, he doesn't go out to war. Another explanation, the connection tells us that if you execute fair judgment, you're assured that when you go out to war, you'll be victorious. It means if there's honesty in the land, the judges are honest, court system is honest, then the God will protect the Jewish people. Similarly, King David said, I have acted with just and righteousness. Do not abandon me in my oppressors. So the Eibush says, when you act justice, I will protect you. Alayvecha, you must consider them as your enemies. Do not have mercy upon them, for they will not have mercy upon you. So don't have mercy on your enemies. Sus v'rechav, my eyes, it says sus is singular. In my eyes, all their horses is one. Similarly, it says you will smite Midian like one man. It says kivas sus pari, as it says when the horse of Paro came. He came with 600 chariots. So there were thousands of horses that came, but it looked like one horse. Verse number 2, when you're going to come closer to the battle. And the Kohen, who was Mashuach Muhammad, as Rashi is going to say, there was always a Kohen who was anointed to go out with the Jews to war. And he'll speak to the people. Rashi says, close to you leaving the border of your territory. The one who is anointed for this purpose, and he's called in halacha Mashuach Muhammad, anointed for war. So there was a kohen that was anointed that would go out with the Jewish people in their wars. Now she'll speak to the people. Lashon Kodesh, she speaks in Hebrew. He'll tell them, Shema Yisrael, hear O Israel. Atem Kreven Hayem LaMachama, you are coming today you're coming today to the war. Alavechem and your enemies. Arierach levavchem. Let not your heart become faint. Valtiru, do not be afraid. Val tachpeizu, do not be alarmed. Val tartzu befneim, do not be terrified by them. Rashi says this is a beautiful Rashi. Love this Rashi. Shema Yisrael. Afilo ein bem schus. The Pasuk tells us, even if the only merit by the Jews are that they say this verse of Shema Yisrael, God is going to protect them. So make sure you meet a Jew, tell him to say Shema Yisrael. That's all he's got to do, Rashi says. Says Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, God's going to protect you. Beautiful Rashi. Alayvechem, these are not your brothers. These are not your brothers, for they fall into their hands. They will have no mercy upon you. So don't think that these enemies are going to push and hug you and kiss you. You need to know they hate you. You fall into the hands of these people. They're going to destroy you. This is not like a war between the kingdoms of Yehuda and the king of Israel. Jews fought with each other. Sad part of Jewish history. Civil war. And which about says the men whose names have been specified arose and took hold of their captives. All the naked ones were dressed from the spoils. They gave them clothes and shoes and food and drinks and anointed them with oil. That's the way the Yidden are. They might not like each other, but they're still brothers. And even if they fight, they're going to be there for each other. They led the donkeys all week, and they brought them their brothers into Jericho, the city of palm trees, and they returned to Samaria. Rather beware. When you're going out to war against your enemies, you're going to fight Hamas. You have to know you have to kill them, because they're not going to take you and push you to treat you well. You must therefore be courageous for battle. These you have four expressions over here. Don't be these four expressions correspond to the four tactics that the kings of the nation employ in battle. They put their shields together in order to strike one another. It makes noise so that opponents rush and flee. Don't be afraid of noise. It's only noise. Then they go and the horses stomp and make them neigh. That's the concept of the road. Don't be afraid to make the pounding of the horses' heartbeats, hoofbeats heard. Then they shout loudly. Don't be afraid. And then they sound the horns with loud instruments. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid for the neighing of the horses. Don't have faint of heart for neighing of it. Don't be afraid from the clanging of the shields. Don't be alarmed from their horns. And don't be terrified from their shouting. Don't worry. Hashem Elokeichem melech imachem nilachem lachem. The Eibush is going out with you to fight with you. Imayveichem, with your enemies. Laishia eschem, to save you. She says they become relying on their supremacy of flesh and blood. They come with their guns, but you come with the supremacy of God. The Philistines came with the supremacy of Goliath. What happened? He was defeated, and they fell along with him. Who accompanies you? This is the Kohen and the camp and the ark that went with the Jewish people. Dibra Shaitim, and that's what the Kohen HaMashuach said. Then with Dibra Shaitim, and then the sheriffs, the leaders of the Jewish people said to the people, to the soldiers, Mia Isha Shabana Bayis Chodesh, who is a man who just got married? No, I'm sorry, just built a home. He did not yet inaugurate the house. He should go back home. He might die in the war. Another person will inaugurate his house. What means to inaugurate your house? You not yet lived in it. That is chinuch habayis, the inauguration of that. That's what we make a chanukas habayis. When we move into a house, we make a fabrengen. We inaugurate the house. So if the guy built the house, he has not moved into it to go home. So this bringing, imagine a guy goes into war, he just built himself a beautiful house, and he's worried if somebody's going to go, somebody else will come into his house because he's going to die. So therefore the guy said, go home. Who planted a vineyard? And he did not redeem it. Go home. And Yamas Bachamas, you might die in war. Somebody else will redeem it. What does that mean? He didn't redeem it. Rashi says he did not redeem it in the fourth year. This is talking about the fruits. In the fourth year, you have to net it about. You have to say that I gave all the tithings. And the fruit must either be eaten in Yerushalayim or be redeemed with money. The food brought the money consumed in Yerushalayim. That's the fourth year. Ultimately, he has to get up and say, on the fourth year, everything was taken out. Who is betrothed to a woman and had not yet married her yet? In those days, they used to do betrothal before marriage. Could be a year before marriage, 2 years before marriage. So if the person, they got up and said, listen, have you, anybody over here is betrothed and not yet gotten married? Mishav Beisai. Go home. You might die in the war and somebody else is going to take her. You must return so he does not die. Or if he does not listen to the priest, he deserves to die. So they would say, listen, it's not a joke. You need to go home. These people had to go home. That's the said, you have no right to go to war. You need to go home. Now the pasuk talks about the next step. It's up to you. The shaitan would continue to talk to them and he said to them, anyone who's fearful and faint-hearted, should go home. That caused his heart to his brothers to melt as his heart has. Go home. She says, why over here says that he must, why does a pasuk sound like a whole new concept? Why couldn't this pasuk just continue the previous verse? Why over here it doesn't say when the Torah divides the three things, it doesn't divide it to Yasu and they'll continue to talk. So why suddenly over here is will continue? It sounds like a whole new subject. Means they add these words to the words of the priest. The priest speaks and announces to the people, Shema Yisrael, hear Israel, until Yeshua asks them to save you. The first one now to me, Yish, anyone who has a second, and the second and third, the priest speaks and the sheriff announces. But this statement, one sheriff speaks and another sheriff announces. So that's the Gemara says there's a difference over here, in that over here it was not said by the priest. So there were certain things that were said by the priest himself, Shema Yisrael. Certain things the Kohen HaMashuach said, and the general repeated, and there were certain things that this thing over here the general said, and somebody else repeated. That's the way it's in Gemara Saita. You can look in the Gemara how the Gemara learns from these verses. Rabbi Kiva says this is to be understood literally. He's unable to stand in tight formation of battle and to see a drawn sword. There's a people that are afraid of afraid of a sword, afraid of blood. Meaning you become stuck by fear at the last moment. That's how Rabbi Kiva learns this verse. He's Pashut afraid. Rabbi Yosef Glili says it refers to one who's afraid because of the sins he's committed. Therefore, the Torah provides him with a pretext of returning home because of a new house, a new vineyard, a new wife, in order to cover up for those returning because the sins they have committed. That's why the Torah puts it all together. You don't want to embarrass a Jew. So he said, the guy said, who has a new wife? That's it. And who knows why they went back? Maybe the guy's going back because he has a new wife. Maybe the guy's going back because he has a new garden. How do you know why he's going back? So that's why the Torah puts them all together. And the Torah really just should have been separate, but the Torah Tafka puts it together. That basically says because we don't want to embarrass a Jew. Imagine if we finished all those. Now we say, who is a sinner? Let him go home. Who's going to get up and walk out? Oh, you're the sinner. Let's see what the sin you did. No, therefore, we put it together. Basically, it's not to embarrass a Jew. So when a Jew got up and walked out, you will hopefully, everybody said, Misabi planted a new tree, Misabi built a house, whatever, he's engaged, whatever, people are going to come up with the reasons why he's leaving the army. So that's the reason. They'll realize that he's not, they won't realize, so people will not realize that they were talking about sinners. As one who sees returning will say, perhaps he built a house, planted a vineyard, matured a wife, etc. Verse number 9. And when this sheriff or the leader, general, finished addressing the people, and they established appointed officers to stand at the head of people. Now she says they appointed sentinels, Zakafim, to stand in front of them and behind them, holding iron rods in their hands. They have permission to cut the legs if anyone attempted to desert. The Zakafim are men who stand at the edge of the battlefield and lift up those who fall and verbally encourage them, saying, return to the battle. Don't be afraid. Don't flee. Don't look. For fleeing is the beginning of defeat. And that completes the Chumash for today. We now go to the Tanya of the day. We'll continue with the 10th chapter, 10th letter, of the Alter Rebbe. This 10th beautiful letter. And the Alter Rebbe comes to a conclusion now of the power of tzedakah. It goes back to the beginning of this letter. The Alter Rebbe now returns to the verse quoted in the beginning of the letter. Chaste Hashem Ilay Samnu. The kindness of God has surely not ended. That's the simple meaning of the verse. Yes, if the verse refers to only God's kindness, that God's kindness has not ended, why does the verse say Tamnu in the first person plural? Which would make this phrase mean we have not been brought to an end. Rather than Tamu, that the kindness has not brought to an end. So why does it say in that language? He answers this by saying that Chasdei Hashem, the kindness of God, refers also to the giving of tzedakah without limitations. So now, if you go to Chasdei Hashem, because it's chesed of the Eibishter, we're not looking to chesed, our chesed limited. Even as we mentioned, even according to Jewish law, there's a limitation to chesed. But that's only if you go according to the law. A Jew has to go, especially a Jew, a person that has sinned, he needs to rectify the past. He has to go to above and beyond his capabilities. So we have to go to Chasdei Hashem. We have to bring about. Since we need to have a Chasdei Hashem, we need to reveal a chesed of the Eibishter, God, that's above limitation. We need to go above limitation. Right? Now, since this is God's manner of practicing benevolence, it does it above limitation. Nikra al Shmoi Dif was called Chasdei Hashem. When a Yid does chesed, he gives tzedakah beyond his limitation, then he's doing the chesed of the Eibishter. Then he's doing the kindness of God, because he's doing God's benevolence. He's not doing human benevolence, which has limitation, even according to Jewish law. He's going beyond the level. He's going beyond the level of beyond the law. He's giving beyond his capability, his responsibility. So when a Jew does something beyond his capability, beyond even his Torah responsibility, then he's doing the chesed of the Eibishter. Chasdei Hashem, the kindness of God. Ukirasiv, as it's written, Chesed Hashem ma'olam ad olam. The kindness of God is everlasting. For although all of Israel is compassionate and practices kind deeds, every Jew practices kindness. But still, there's limitation and measure to man's compassion. But the Eibush is called infinite. He's the infinite one. There's no limitations. And to his attributes, there's no limitation. So Chesed Hashem is Ma'olam ad olam. Chesed Hashem is infinite. Ma'olam ad olam means forever, unlimited. Not only is God unlimited, but his attributes are unlimited. His mercies never cease. When a Jew echoes God's boundless kindness and compassion, his actions as thus turn God's acts of kindness. Our acts of compassion that are unlimited. Now you understand why the prophet said after the destruction of the temple. The prophet says, Chasdei Hashem ki leisamnu. The kindness of God is surely not ended. That means our kindness is unended. We're talking about our kindness. God's kindness is our kindness. That is because we are not perfect. Go bring all the Purushim together. Leisamnu means also that we're not perfect. Leisamnu means it's unending. And Leisamnu means God's compassion is unending. We have three interpretations, remember, in the word Leisamnu. Leisamnu means God's chesed is unending. Leisamnu means we are unending. And Leisamnu means we're not perfect. So that's how the Alter Rebbe puts all three interpretations together. Because we're not perfect, we sinned. Because of our sins in Gullus. We are in Gullus. We are in exile because of our sins. We're not perfect. That's it. We're not a perfect people. But that's not the end. That's not so terrible. Because we're not perfect. That a person can say that he has never blemished his soul, whether in this world or the upper world. Al Cain. That's why, since we're incomplete. If we were complete, we didn't have to go to above and beyond. If we're complete, then reward. The Eibishter says you're complete. I'll give you what you need. No, we come to the Eibishter. We're going to the essence of God because we're not complete. We're incomplete. And since we're incomplete, we're going to do tshuva, we're going to repent. And not only are we going to repent, we're going to bring about a concept of tzedakah that's going to be unlimited. So what's going to happen? We're going to reveal Chazdei Hashem. We're going to reveal the Eivishter is unlimited. We're going to reveal God's unlimited chesed. So the Alter Rebbe does put all three interpretations together. Because the Alter Rebbe explained in the beginning of this chapter that if you're a perfect Jew, and we're Mitzvah, we'll all be perfect Jews. If we're a perfect Jew, then you got to follow halacha, the law of charity. But we're not perfect Jews. The proof that we're not perfect Jews is we're in Galus. That's the greatest proof. So that's why the prophet says when the Jewish people are in Galus, the prophet says, what do Jewish people say? Dafka in Galus. Dafka when we are, specifically when we're not complete. When we are in a concept, we are pagan, we are not perfect, we are blemished, our souls are blemished, we're in Galus. We have the greatest blemish of the soul is that we're in Galus. Whether in America or in Israel, we're all in Galus. We're not the Beis Hamikdash. We're not a revelation of God. We can't become about it. We're in Galus. But that doesn't stop the concept. Actually, that brings about the concept that we go beyond our limitation. If we weren't in Galus, maybe we wouldn't go beyond the limitation. But now that we're in Galus and we are not healthy people spiritually, that brings about within us that we go beyond our limitation. When it comes to tshuva, we do tshuva, and we give tzedakah. Both of these concepts are beyond our limitation. And when we go beyond our limitation, God goes beyond his limitation. And that's how the Alter Rebbe brought all three interpretations of one word, Loisamnu, into one concept. That all these interpretations are happening exactly the same time. It's happening right now. As Jews are in Galus, every day we need to show kindness above our limitation, Gemilas Chasadim, and we all need to do, and redemption happens through tshuva, which is the concept of us going beyond our limitation, us going beyond our normal way of doing things, and we do tshuva, and we go to the essence of things, we go to the essence of everything. Therefore, we need to conduct ourselves in accordance to the kindness of God, which is without limitation, with the gives tzedakah unlimited. Don't make an accounting. Don't ask your accountant how much tzedakah you're responsible to give this year. Give whatever you can give. Because we want to bring down in Galus, we need to bring down a revelation of God that's above and beyond normal kindness. Shurav chesed. We need to have abundance of kindness. We need to have mercy, which is above any unlimited, infinite mercy. As the Pur says, as the Pasuk says, your mercies never cease. So since we need to draw down a level of compassion, our own practice of kindness, that's why we also have to show compassion above limitation. Because we need to echo God's kindness, Chazdei Hashem. So we turn to God and we say, Chazdei Hashem, we are doing your chesed. We're not doing even the Torah's chesed, we're doing God's chesed. Thus the prophet is telling us that the generation that follows instruction, that they should practice unbounded kindness, because they are not in the state of tamnu. They're not complete. Being imperfect, we need to arouse God's infinite kindness and compassion in order to rectify any sins and all blemishes that we have done. Moreover, that's the power of tshuva, and that's the power of tzedakah, that it not only makes something, it not only fixes the present, it fixes the past. Everything of the past is fixed. Moreover, since the latter generations are too weak to engage in fasting, as the Alter Rebbe said, self-mortification, the only way is now available is only way it's tzedakah. Today we cannot fast. All the fast what the Gemara says, and Arizal says you have to fast on every sin you did. We can't do that. What do we need to do today? Today we need to give tzedakah. Our sages say, Ein Yisrael the Golan Ela de tzedakah. That the Jewish people were redeemed through tzedakah. Therefore, this refers to charity that they will perform even if they are legally not obligated. That means Alpitera, they did their mitzvah already. No, they're going to go beyond their mitzvah. Lefnim Mishra said it. Ain't David ba, as it says, Mashiach ben David will not come until the pockets. The Alter Rebbe, over here says the Alter Rebbe. The Gemara says, it's an interesting Gemara. The Gemara says that Mashiach's not going to come until everybody's not going to have a penny in their pocket. We're going to empty out our pockets. The Rebbe says the Alter Rebbe didn't want to end the Gemara. Let's see in the bottom, I think it says, even if heaven forbid, there will be not a solitary coin in one's pocket. Tzedakah will still be given. And this is the boundless level of tzedakah that secures complete atonement for the sins of our people, after which they will be immediately redeemed. The Rebbe explained that the Alter Rebbe does not want to conclude the above-mentioned quotation of the Gemara. The Alter Rebbe takes out the Gemara, that says v'chulu, etc. Look, if you want to look up the Gemara, go look up the Gemara. But the Alter Rebbe didn't want to put it there about the coming of Mashiach because it's quite possible that he didn't want to write out the last words until the pocket will be empty, even for the smallest coin. That's what the Gemara says. Everybody's will have no more, all our portfolios will be empty. This is a precondition of the sages can be filled in the spiritual, because the Alter Rebbe wanted that everything that the Gemara says physically can be accomplished spiritually. So we can accomplish this in a spiritual way. By conducting, and the Rebbe would say always, a lot of things can be accomplished by humility. So even though your bank account is full, and every Jewish bank account should be full, and everybody should have in their pockets money, and everybody should have a portfolio, but if they're humble, the Gemara says, Ein ani ela b'das. Being humble is in your mind. So therefore, a person can be very wealthy, and it can be extremely humble. So he's like, he has no money because he feels everything is God's money. So it's not my money. So you can accomplish this concept of not having any money in your bank account through that way. And that's what the Rebbe said, that especially in the times of the Golas, that, in the Alter Rebbe's time, most of the Jewish people were poor. But the Rebbe said, before Mashiach's coming, the Jews will be successful. Baruch Hashem, Jews should be successful, and Jews should have a lot of money, and we also all have a lot of money. And nevertheless, we should feel that we have that it's not ours. It's because of our humility. It's like our pockets are empty, and that's the way it should be. This can be explained by the Alter Rebbe. Does not say to shir patron when they are legally not obligated, but rather imu, if they are legally obligated. Nobody should be legally not obligated. Nobody should be legally not obligated. Everybody should have money. The Alter Rebbe, he didn't even change the wording of the Gemara a little bit. That there should never be by Jews that they're legally not obligated. Chas v'sholom, he's an ani. He's a poor man. We have Jews that are poor people that are legally. No, every Jew should have money, and every Jew should be wealthy. And nevertheless, Ein Mashiach ba, Ein Ben Bela David ba, Mashiach's not going to come until we'll feel like we have not a penny in our pocket. Everything that we have is min hashamayim, and therefore it's not about if you have the money or don't have the money. It's about your feeling to the whole concept. Akid said that's what the Alter Rebbe ended this. We ended the 10th letter of the Alter Rebbe. Beautiful, beautiful letter of the Alter Rebbe in the concept of one word in the pasuk Chasei Hashem Kelei Samnu, how a yid through his avodah and tzedakah, through his avodah and tshuva, two things the Alter Rebbe mentioned: avodah and tshuva. The way a Jew does tshuva, because there's two things that redeem the Jewish nation: tshuva. the Gemara says, and tzedakah. These two things are unlimited. These two things in all mitzvahs of the Torah are unlimited. And these two things, not only they're unlimited, but because they're unlimited, that's why they rectify the past. Tshuva and tzedakah rectifies the past. Not only do tshuva and tzedakah bring a great future, Be'ezrat Hashem, but tshuva and tzedakah, pashit, fixes all the begamim, all the blemishes that a Jew has done in his lifetime through tshuva and tzedakah, which are both things are a concept where a person goes above his capabilities. Tshuva is transformation of self. Tzedakah is going, you can give above your capability. You can give all your money to tzedakah. In reality, you could do that. Both of these concepts will bring about, first of all, redemption of the Jewish nation. And not only that, will bring the rectification of all the begamim, of all the negatives that we have done in the past, not only our negatives, but all the generations of negatives that were done in the past and will merit through our tshuva and our tzedakah to ultimately bring about the chasdei Hashem, the true kindness of the Eibishter, which will be the coming of Mashiach, the revelation of godliness in this world, b'meheira, b'yameinu mamish. May it be speedily in our days. Today is the 5th day of the month, my dear friends, which is chapter 29 to chapter 34 in your Tillim. If you do those 6 chapters, also chapter 11, 12, and 13 is the 3 chapters for today. If you do those chapters, you do the chitas of the day. Let's say the yom yom of the day, the 5th of Elul. Our custom is, the Rebbe writes, our custom, and then we're putting on a talis, big talis, is your place to fold the talis on the right shoulder, inspect the tzitzis while reciting the Barchi Nafshi. Remove the talis from the shoulder and open it. Kiss the top borders. Twirl the talis away from the front of the face to a position behind you. Begin the bracha, the Sate Batzitzis. Complete the bracha close to placing the 2 of the right corners of the talis around the neck over the left shoulder. And that's the minhag of Chabad. My friends, I wish you all a beautiful and wonderful Shabbos. And I hope you learn chitas by yourself tomorrow. And I'll meet you all on Sunday morning. We'll learn again.
Happy Shabbos, Rabbi.
Rabbi, I have a couple things. One,